Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a JaYo review. I'm here with the lovely Valerie.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
I'm
How are you, Jackie?
good, thank you. And you?
I'm good. Can't complain. Life is good. Here we
Excellent.
are.
And what are we reviewing today, Valerie?
Today, my dear friend, we are reviewing Netflix's Dead Boy Detective season one, which came
Mm,
out about 3 weeks ago. And it's
ex-
how okay, so let's dive into it. How familiar are you with Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, whether the show or the book series or comic series, really?
that is a great question. I did not grow up with the Sandman. I know a lot of people love it and have read the comics and watched the TV show. I have done neither. It is 1000% my vibe, and I will eventually, but I'm not super, super, super.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's very exciting. So The
Yeah.
Sandman, as you know, is a comic series written by Neil Gaiman, and it's all about the entity Dream and his kind of adventures within the world. And it encompasses almost everything that you can possibly imagine in terms of worlds. Like there's at even one point they go to Arkham Asylum. Let me put it that way. Part of the Sandman in certain aspects of the story, he encounters two beings called the Dead Boy Detectives, which are two boys, Edwin and Charles, who are dead. You know, they're ghosts, and they solve these supernatural mysteries. Um, so the Sandman obviously came to Netflix, I think either last year or a couple years ago. I'm not quite sure the timeline. And of course, it was very successful. It was pretty great. And I'm sorry, HBO Max, before they decided to do their hemorrhaging of cutting all the great movies and shows that actually should be on that channel but are not. But that's a whole other story. Um, Unfortunately, cut Dead Boy Detectives. They were going to turn it into like a 10-episode TV series, and Netflix bought the rights and they proceeded to make it, and that is what was released 2 weeks ago. So it's technically a spin-off of The Sandman, and it works much better it being on Netflix than it would have been on HBO Max, because Netflix also tends to really go for it, I think, in terms of the content a little bit more than HBO Max. So
I got you.
yeah,
And if you could give the series a score between 0 and 10, what would you give it?
I'd give it a 9. I'm gonna rate it higher
Ooh.
than the other one that we reviewed.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. That's high praise.
I loved it.
I
I was a
love
huge
that.
fan. I was a huge
Okay.
fan.
Well, let's start with let's start with the positives then. What did you really love about it?
I loved the writing. The writing of it was so intricate and well done and wonderful for the source material. It was a great adaptation, and they took like the idea of these two friends, these two best friends in the whole world, and they really expanded on their backstories, and they put it in 2023, 2024, in a way that was really accessible and understanding for its audience. And it was just really it was really thrilling. Not only was there like a monster of the week, but there was also, you know, with that TV trope, like what Buffy did. But there was also this beautiful overarching storyline of Edwin and Charles' relationship, their relationship with their new friend who turned out to be a psychic who they saved. And also, all the while, they're trying to stay hidden from the basically the HR department of the afterlife, who tracks down these missing ghosts, so to speak. So they're trying to stay hidden from death. They're trying to stay hidden from hell. They're trying to stay hidden from like all these entities and these supernatural oddities that could really much drag them back to the afterlife, so they don't stay on Earth and they don't solve these mysteries, which is, of course, is what they want. And it's a wonderful tie-in also to the Sandman series. Like they have wonderful cameos by Kirby, who played Death on the Sandman. Um, the lovely actor, I don't remember her name, but she played Despair as well. So, you know, if you follow Sandman, there's like the five siblings: Dream, Death, Despair, Destruction, and then there's one other one. See, I'm my knowledge of Sandman only really comes from the show, and then I started looking more into the novel. I'm sorry, the comic series. It's not a novel. But yeah, so I loved the writing, and the performances of these young actors was just so sweet, and they were so perfect for those roles. You ever like watch something and you're just like, oh God, this was made for them. These two guys who played Enwood and Charles had wonderful chemistry together. And when they brought in like their kind of friends, that then they formed this little family, like all the chemistry was great. And then from what you see on interviews also, they really all got along beautifully. So I loved the writing. I love the writing. I also love the style. It was very it was very gothic and Tim Burton-esque. If you're a fan of Wednesday and if you're a fan of his films, like and that kind of like German expressionism, that's a lot of this as well. Um, and just also if you're a fan of Neil Gaiman, and Neil Gaiman had a lot of input on the series too, which is appropriate, as you should always consult the author if you're going to adapt the series.
100%. Is there a comic for Head Boy Detectives as well?
Not
That I didn't know.
not a full-on comic from what I understand, but they are featured in the Sandman series.
Cool.
So that's what they were taken off of. Whether or not the storyline follows um, Edwin and Charles to the T, that I'm not sure of. It might have just been adaptable for they might have been like overarching for Netflix. And also now that they're making Sandman season 2, I think there's going to be a bit of more crossover with the two of them.
Yeah.
So to up in the air, but I'm going to find that out now because I really liked these two characters and I really want to dive into them a little bit more and explore the world.
Yeah. And would you say it's very similar vibes to? For me, it reminded me a lot of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like which is also on Netflix. I think they're the ones who also did the new reboot.
I have a confession.
Yeah.
I've never seen Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I did not watch it.
Oh, it's okay. The newer one I haven't really watched myself. Like I just know the vibes, and my siblings love it. But the old one, I grew up with the old one on
Oh
like
yeah.
TGI Fridays, like on ABC. It was always, just Sabrina the Teenage Witch, um, with like Family Matters. So like, yeah, I grew up with Melissa Joan Hart,
I
Sabrina.
love her.
Very
Hey,
different vibes.
can we bring back TGIF? It's been
It
years.
was so wholesome. So, it's funny, like the 90s and early 2000 had all of the wholesome stuff. And I'm like, where have they gone? Because nowadays we
Reminisce.
replace them with, you know, um, ID Go, like all of these true crime things and like dramatic shows and like sexual shows. And like, there's nothing wrong with all of these cool shows. It's just that, like, I think we're missing wholesome, like, family shows.
Yeah. What was your favorite show from that era? If you had to choose one, if you had to put one in a time capsule to show people 50 years from now what that was like, what your childhood was like, what would it be?
Easily Family Matters.
Ooh,
Urkel was
icon.
everything. He was
He
everything.
he was an icon. I remember when he turned into Stefan.
Oh, we were all like, "Oh my god!" It is so funny though. We were all like, "The transformation is
It was
incredible."
a whole like potion. I remember, and he just became this very suave.
Suave. Ooh.
Suave is the word. And I distinctly remember the Disney World episode. I remember where I think it was Laura. Laura showed up in the beautiful Cinderella carriage,
Okay.
and I think Stefan was like proposing to her. I don't I just remember this one very clear image of her like dressed as Cinderella in this beautiful gown and riding in the carriage, and I think it was a proposal. I don't know if anyone watching wants to confirm that, but um later after this is uploaded, but I gotta find that out.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that episode.
It was
But
a
same question to you. What TV show? One TV show.
that's hard for me. But I mean I do love Boy Meets World. I was a
Classic.
big Boy Meets Eric Matthews forever. Will Friedle, if you ever watched this, I was a huge fan. Um, I loved Boy Meets World. I loved also there was a Mary Kate and Ashley series called Two of a Kind, which only ran one season, and
Yeah.
it was like the babysitter is a teacher is like a student in their father's class, and obviously the mother's gone, and so
Mm.
that it's a very like odd couple kind of situation. But and then of course you have like all the 90s cartoon classics, but for me it would have been Boy Meets World. That
Okay.
show was just come
I
on,
love that
Feeny.
show. I
Feeny
love
taught us,
Paprika.
honestly, I learned more from Feeny now as an adult
Mhm.
than I did as a kid.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I know. Well, his life lessons are. I mean, I love William Danielson. God
Mhm.
bless him, he's still alive. But you know, you learn as an adult. I mean, you go back and you watch those shows, and then you just learn more from him as a take those lessons as an adult. But anyway,
Absolutely. And like this world needs those lessons from, shows like Boy Meets World, from Fresh Prince. Like, oh, there were so many great lessons in that. Um,
love Fresh
so,
Prince.
too. I loved, and that's the thing too, like from all these shows, the Cosby Show, these shows were ahead of their time, and we're talking about DI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and about like telling the stories that aren't being told. That's the both the and we'll get off of this tangent very soon, but like for me, it's really funny because the 80s and 90s had more stories about Black middle class and upper class people and families, about, like not Whitney, yes, Whitney Goldberg, for example, was
Yeah.
in several interracial relationships in films, which is, now like wow, this is revolutionary. But back in the 80s and 90s, she was in relationships with white men that were on screen with different stories, like Karina, where it's a widowed, father with a child who hires a nanny and they find love. Like, blow my mind, blow my mind. And there were more of these types of stories that were like about real life and that were interesting and that existed than there are now, where we're like, well, we need to tell all of the stories. Well, where are they? Because we're not telling all of the stories of all
No.
of the, of the.
No, it's all it seems to be more of a cash grab now,
Mm,
which is a real shame because those stories, I mean, yeah, TV back in the 80s and the 90s was peak, I
mm,
think. For a lot of people of different cultures and diversities and races and genders watch these shows and they were like you could actually relate to them.
yeah,
Now you watch a show and I mean it's what you were saying before. It is mostly true crime. It is mostly uh, shows that are just not uh, you can't really it's hard to relate to them,
yeah.
I think a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, TV's definitely changed. I think it will. I mean, history always repeats itself. It will come around again. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of when, and hopefully, in our lifetime.
Mhm.
But that was one of the things about tying this back to what we to Dead Boy Detectives. You're talking about accessible stories.
Yeah.
The one of the things that really popped out to me was the fact that there was this really incredible coming out storyline for one of the characters. I won't spoil who because people might want to watch this after it. Also, it's worth noting that the advertising for Dead Boy Detectives was not great, and
Mm,
a lot of people are considering, even though it was on the top 10 for like a few weeks,
yeah.
it is considered dead on arrival, which is a real shame because
Wow.
they really could have promoted it in the way if they promoted this the same way they promoted Baby Reindeer or something, or like even the OJ Simpson documentary that came out
Mhm.
around the same time,
Okay.
it still would have been a little bit more relevant. And I think it would pretend now, I mean, the chances of it having a season two, who knows? But
Yeah.
um, I was really disappointed with that. Anyway, going back to the story, there is a wonderful coming out storyline with one of the main characters. And the way that they address it and treat it, and it's not just all crammed into one episode, like an after school special. Remember how they used to do those back in the 90s? It encompasses a huge part of the series. And they treat it with respect and love and dignity. And it's such a shame that people who are maybe struggling with the same thing as what this character was, and the reason he was also, it's also noting, is because he's from the 1910s, which is obviously a time period that if you were gay, you obviously did not talk about that. That was something that you considered wrong, and it was repressed, and it was awful. Um, but he didn't know how to deal with it in 2024, and he was really struggling with it. Um, and just I loved, now obviously I'm a straight woman, so but even I could like see like how much beauty there was to this story and how much they just cared about getting it right and making sure that um that representation was correct. And it's a shame that more people are not going to see it because Netflix didn't spend the time to advertise it in the way that they should have. And then they have not now, don't get me wrong, okay, we also talked about this before. Money
Yeah.
is money. It's a business.
Yeah.
But if you invested money in something that you believed in, you should promote it just as much as anything else.
1000%. And do you have any like thoughts as to why Netflix didn't promote it as much as some other shows? Because Sandman was so popular and so successful, it's surprising that they wouldn't push Dead Boy Detectives more.
I thought that too. I think it's because it's Dead Boy Detectives. They were considering it as more like a teenage show.
Okay.
Something along the lines of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So they, their YA programming for the most part is not as successful, I think, as the adult content. And I think that played a little bit into it. I think, they were probably like, well, it's about two teenagers. What adults are going to watch shows about two teenagers? Forgetting about the fan base that is the Sandman. If they had made that connection more prominent, would have been a different story. And I think, and I went back and to make sure that I was correct in my line of thinking with the advertising. They've done some interviews on like IGN and like questions with the cast being like, well, like what they do with Bridgerton sometimes on those like not variety websites, but like pull a question out of the teapot and let's
Right.
answer it. But I had to really do some digging to find that. And they,
Mm.
as far as I'm concerned, they only had one trailer. And the only reason I knew about it, how I was coming out, because I watched the trailer. I said, "Oh, it's a spinoff of Sandman. How great!" And I clicked "Remind Me."
Right.
That's the only reason that I knew it was released. And that annoyed me. I was
Yeah.
like, come on, Netflix. Netflix has done so much
They
in terms
have.
of
They've done
content.
a lot of bad too, though. Like
Yes,
killing Sense 8 was dumb
dumb.
beyond measure. Like I cannot believe that that show was incredible. And
Yeah, they've done. I mean, they've made a lot of. I mean, not as let's make it very clear. HBO Max has certainly done the most damage in terms
have
of.
they? Of all
Yeah.
networks? I don't know. Like there's so many
Oh,
networks that have canceled things where I'm like,
Netflix did a whole, or not Netflix. I'm sorry, HBO Max did a whole slash like over the last 2 years or so because of money. And they cut. I mean, the Coyote versus Acme film that was supposed to come out.
oh,
They shelved that completely. That was a big deal because that was another Looney Tunes movie that had actually been shown to people and they really enjoyed it. And then for whatever reason, and there was no for whatever reason, and they were never clear on the reason. Same thing with again Dead Boy Detectives. They axed that. They axed like the fourth season of Doom Patrol. They canceled what was they canceled one big thing that was Batgirl.
oh
They
yeah, yeah,
had,
yeah.
do you remember
I
that?
read about all of that stupidity. I was like,
Stupid.
what?
You had
Oh,
Brendan Fraser and oh god, her name escapes me, but she was in the Heights and I think she played Nina and she was going to play Batgirl, and that would have been talk about a network that wants to talk about representation and
mhm.
promote it. That was your opportunity
Yeah,
too. You brought DC, like bringing DC into that, and apparently it was a great film.
yeah.
Why would you shelve it? Why
Shelve
would
it.
you?
Not even sell it to whomever, which is like, if you don't want to, give it to somebody at least.
No, and and then you make crap TV shows like Velma. Come
I'm
on.
not.
That was well. I only got through one episode, I, and I think I sat in the spot that I was watching the show and I couldn't move for like 10 minutes. It just it's mind boggling to me that that show, and I mean we can have a whole other segment on that. Like the fact that that was greenlit for 2 seasons and you axed something that actually could have been very good for your network,
Mm,
and and that's the problem that I have with HBO Max, um, and Net and Netflix. Netflix has made some really, 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 really not great decisions
yeah.
about their content, and I get it. It's a business, but
No.
you can't tout that you want diversity, you want LGBTQIA stories, you want representation, and then cut the shows that have that.
Exactly.
And then you promote stuff like uh when they were promoting the OJ documentary, I was like, come on.
How many shows do we have to have about this? You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah,
this is
you know,
great.
I'd rather have a show where a kid who's potentially like, a kid who's potentially struggling with coming out and they're trying to figure out the way to say it could maybe watch something like Dead Boy Detectives and be like, oh, I'm not alone, as opposed to another documentary about OJ. We know what happened.
Right.
Like if you study that story and you follow it, we also had Ryan Murphy's version of it with Cuba Gooding Jr. a couple years ago. So
Yep.
like, and I get it. Look, it's ingrained in the pop culture history. I get
Yeah.
it, but we don't we don't need to see another documentary. I'd rather have the stories that you want to, the original stories, or the stories that are like someone could watch and be like, this is life changing.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like again, we talked a little bit about Baby Reindeer before recording. I couldn't watch it. Like I couldn't get through it. I was sitting, my Justine, my younger sister, was able to watch it. I couldn't do it. But um, why are we promoting also that story as well? And I get it. I understand. It was real. It's a wild story that everyone would want to know. But I'm just like, give that promotion more to the stories that also could work really well and
Yeah.
maybe not be dead on arrival, and then blame it on not on you and blame it on something else.
Right. No,
A
for
lot of things.
sure. For sure. And I mean, I think it's complicated. The entertainment world is always so complicated and their justifications and like thoughts of like what is proper programming, what will work, what will not. And I think sometimes they realize they surprise themselves and are like, wait, this is a hit? We didn't think this would be a hit.
Like Bridgerton, I can
Mm.
almost guarantee you that nobody thought it was going to be as big as it was.
Really? Well, you
Probably
know what?
not.
You're probably right because before Bridgerton, Shonda had a TV show which I was uber excited about uh like it was Romeo and Juliet-esque. It was like
Oh,
star-crossed lovers or something like that. Yeah, it had
oh,
one season. Yeah, and then it got canceled. ABC had it. I was so effing excited because I was like, I'm a big Shonda girl. Like I love Scandal. Scandal is by far my favorite Shondaland show. I loved Grace for a while, but then after I don't know how many seasons and episodes, I was like, I'm tired. And this
don't
is why
blame
I
me.
don't do soap operas. Like I'm like, I can't keep watching y'all. Like,
We should do a segment on Scandal because I could talk about Scandal for days.
yes, let's absolutely
I could
do.
talk about Scandal for days, and I have
I
to think it.
I want to rewatch Scandal from the beginning to the end, but I just don't want to do it by myself. It's not as fun. We should
Wait,
absolutely.
don't tease, because
No, I'm serious. We
I
should
would do it. I would
let's do it.
1000% want rewatch Scandal with you.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love. Yes, Shonda. If you watch this, like you watch my Bridgerton review, hopefully one day, please, Shonda, hire me. I promise you, I will bring you all the spice and the juice. I can do all of the accents. Please hire me. Hire me. I'm telling you, Auntie, I'm here. Please. Thank you.
As Jackie's former director at one point, I can attest to all of that. She's amazing. Please hire her. Please
Oh,
hire
and
her.
make a dark black skinned woman, me preferably, the the main and bigger and taller. I'm big and
Yes.
tall. The lead for one of your TV shows. Like I would love a storyline where I get to fall in love.
Oh,
Love that. Love that.
we do love
Thanks,
that.
Shonda. Thanks, Auntie. Back to Dead Boy Detectives.
I love that. This is the second segment that we've done, and we've just promoted Shonda because we just love her so much.
So much.
Come on, no one. But think about it. I mean, when you saw the first season of Bridgerton came out in 2020, so
Hmm.
everybody obviously there's everybody still inside. But then you watched it and you saw all this incredible, incredible diversity
Yeah.
that you saw on the screen,
Hmm.
and the stories and the costumes. Queen Charlotte, come on, Queen
Love
Charlotte.
her. We could do a
I
whole segment on that. And I love how her story like blew up.
And more people are saying they like her story more than they liked Bridgerton.
Bridgerton. Yeah, yeah. I'm
I mean, you
I'm
have
here for it
we can go into that. I see we just
for sure.
spouting everything, but But point being, when like, I don't think anyone expected Bridgerton to blow up like that. And I
Mhm.
think it was in part that people were inside because of COVID.
Yeah.
But I think also in part people were really hungry for that kind of storytelling, for a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful love story
Mhm.
with these great characters and this great representation. So if
Exactly.
Netflix saw what a hit that was,
Mhm.
carry that, carry that into your business model.
Yeah.
That's
No,
my thought.
1000%. I agree. I agree. And hopefully they'll do a season two of Dead Boy Detectives
I
because
really,
I saw, I did a little research and like there are way more like 5-star reviews than anything else. Like
yeah,
people really loved the season.
they loved I mean, there's a whole subline about the metaphorically it's about a woman getting out of a very toxic relationship. And the idea is that there's a demon that possessed her, and the demon's like kind of still in her mind, and she ends up like it's her dealing with that, which a lot of people, men, women, non-binary people, like can all relate to getting out of a toxic relationship. Um, there was that. There was, this LGBTQ storyline. There was dealing with trauma and past abuse from your like, abuse from a family, like, and dealing with that, remembering, and like, so it's all these little things that come together that a lot of people can relate to or see themselves in the stories. And maybe the story, I mean, like any story, all stories help somebody in one way or another. Maybe this could help someone, but if they don't know about it, they can't do anything about it. So Netflix, if you watch this at some point, baby, get it together, please.
Please, Netflix.
But we love you anyway. We do love you. We do
We
love you.
do, we do, and want to work with you. We both want to work with you
Yes.
so much. You want us, our talent and our creativity. I'm telling you, Netflix.
Yeah,
You
we're
always take
fun.
chances.
Not only are we fun, we're also very smart individuals and very creative individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll get you hits. We'll get you
Yeah,
trending.
yeah.
Promise.
We know people. We can do it.
Mm-hmm.
We know how to crowdfund. We can do it.
Facts. Facts. I can make people feel things. I promise. Promise you.
Again, as her former director. Yes. For Juliet. Hire her for Juliet, baby, because it's beautiful. I will forever tout that Romeo and Juliet for my life. I do not care where that Romeo and Juliet was life changing for me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it will happen again. It will happen
And we
again.
will do it. We are doing to do it again. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of when. Maybe we'll do it on Netflix.
That would be incredible. Netflix, come on. It's
Netflix, come
been a
on, baby.
while.
I will send you the link.
It's been a while, Netflix. I think this generation deserves a new Romeo and Juliet. Be that person.
Speaking of
Be
which,
on it. Mhm.
did, well, we got the London one and we got the Broadway one.
That's true. And I've
But
read some reviews on the London one.
we should
Um,
let's do a segment on that one.
yes.
But
Yes.
also, not for nothing, ours is better. It
Oh,
just is.
1000%. I think it's, yeah. Yeah.
I had to, but it's true. It's true. I believe in it 1,000%.
I do too. I do too.
Just like I believe in Dead Boys, Dead Boy Detectives. Please, please give us a season two. We deserve it.
Yes. Was there anything actually that you didn't like about Dead Boy Detectives? That you were like, man, nah, I'm not
No,
here for this.
I don't
There's
think
not one
so.
thing?
No, there's not. No, I genuinely really liked everything from a style point, from a storytelling point, from a casting point. I thought
Hmm.
everybody was really spot on. I,
Okay.
there was a little monster. There was like one little monster that looked like it was just taken out of Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. Same
Mm.
style, but that's it. Maybe that might be my one. If you had to like be like, give me a complaint, I don't, and I'll be like, I don't know, and then that might be the one thing. But other than that, no, I loved everything about it. I really truly believe in the show, and I just it's one of those shows that I would watch again, probably like maybe twice a year. I don't know.
I love that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Sandman. I can't wait for Sandman too. But I really hope that there is some crossover between the two shows because that would get the promotion out there. But
Mm-hmm.
you know,
I'm sure. I'm sure. I hope they will, but I'm sure they will. Like, especially if Neil Gaiman is a part of it. I'm
Oh,
sure he's thought about that.
I love him
Hmm.
so much.
If there were, and this is the last question for
Okay.
about this, but if they were to make another like offshoot of the Sandman, who are like which characters would you want to see other than the Dead Boy detectives?
Ooh,
That's okay if there's no
that's
one.
a good question. I'd like to explore a little bit more of the Lucifer in that
Okay.
world. I
Okay.
think that would be an interesting miniseries because of the way Gwendolyn Christie portrayed Lucifer. So very prim and proper, and you just saw the rage behind her eyes.
Mhm.
Lucifer was portrayed as as a woman, I
Yeah.
think, in the show. I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure if it was just an entity or if it was actually Gwendolyn Christie portrayed her as a woman, but it was. I'd like to see a mini series about her, like a day in the life of hell, with that particular Lucifer.
Excellent. I love that. I mean, the devil's always an interesting character.
Also, and not for nothing, I'd love to see the interact like a one-off maybe with at Arkham Asylum with Batman, with the tying in of those two DC worlds. That's something that I would like to see.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think there's like an interaction with like the Joker at one point. And I mean, you think of these two very obscure characters from these two very obscure, very specific worlds, and you have them together.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting for me to see
Hmm.
as a one-off, maybe.
I got you.
Dead Boy
Well,
Detectives.
Dead Boy Detectives. Thank you, Valerie, for this glowing review of Dead Boy Detectives. Guys, you know, go watch it. 9 out of 10 from Valerie. That's really high praise. Catch it.
Please, please save it if you can. Get those views in. Let's see if we can get it back in the top 10 so we can be like Netflix, give us a season two because this is the story that we need.
Please.
We can
Um,
watch Bridgerton anytime. We love, don't get me wrong,
keep
that carriage
Bridgerton
scene. But
going.
like
And this.
you could binge it, Bridgerton and then this. Like
Exactly. Only 8 episodes. Let us
uh
know what your thoughts are in the comments. We would love to hear your
please,
thoughts
please,
as
please,
well.
please.
Yeah. And please check us out for another JaYo review. As you heard, we have like a million things we want to review, so we'll be back.
Oh, 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 we will be back. No, thank you, Jackie. This was I love coming on here. It's such a delight talking. And I also love how we tie everything in together.
Me too.
I love it. But thank you. This has been delightful.
You're very welcome. See you soon, friends.
Bye, friends.
Bye.